So here we are in Birmingham at the English Whisky Festival. I'm here with Morag, who is the CEO of the English Whisky Guild. There is the best part of 20 to 30 English whisky distilleries, some of them very young, like us, some of them slightly more well-established. Unlike our new distilleries, up in Scotland, they've been around for hundreds of years. Yeah. They've got phenomenal heritage and history behind them. Do you think when it comes to sustainability credentials, there is a difference between the two sectors?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'd say sustainability is, first of all, it's a journey, it's not a destination. And if you I kind of see it like we're all in the same storm, this climate change storm, but each of us are in our own little boats and navigating our own way there. So I think there's kind of a mixture there where the Scotch whisky guys are really established and they've had their sustainability strategy, which when I worked in the SWA, I led on for those 3 iterations. So some of the, they've really kind of lent into their byproducts and working out, can they create green energy and be self-sufficient and have that green energy there? Well, we're small, nimble, agile, and some of our companies, a bit like yourself, are farmers that have become brewers, have become distillers, completely own their grain or have partners on a single estate. So I'd say one of the things that maybe we're doing differently or leaning into more at the moment is that regenerative farming, which covers water, nature, as well as that carbon footprint. Yeah, and there's just, as I say, there's lots of other kind of things that the Scotch whisky guys, they've got really old established buildings. We've got nice modern buildings or modern designs and fit outs. And so we can build it in from day one, we can build in energy efficiency, we can build in innovative technology. But as I say, the Scotch guys are also, looking at that, they've got MVRs, TVRs, and they're retrofitting another skill set or challenge there, but they are looking at their old buildings and where they can, they're trying to maximize opportunity. So we're all doing sometimes the same things in different scales, but also leaning in different ways.
I mean, that's it. You mentioned that the English whisky sector in general is much more nimble, much smaller, which it obviously is. There must be quite a difficult focus on the huge Scottish whisky sector. As you mentioned, the huge buildings, the beautiful locations that they're based in, the access to renewable energy. It must be quite difficult. Certainly from our perspective, we've invested heavily in heat recovery. We're looking at we are working with solar power. Our bottles are 100% recycled. Our energy source initially is a byproduct of green diesel, so it's 40 to 50% less carbon than the fossil fuel version of LPG.
Yeah.
It's but we are not based in the middle of nowhere like many of the Scottish distilleries are.
So there's no gas connectivity to, I'd say, most of the Scotch whisky distilleries. I think anything above the Central Belt in Scotland, there's not really a gas grid network. So green gas, if we really kind of lean into, as a UK, lean into that renewable gas, then we might have our distilleries are maybe more kind of areas where they can connect into that easily, but at the same time the Scotch whisky guys are having to just think differently. So they might skip that green gas and go straight into, some of them are looking at hydrogen. They're all being self-sufficient. The big grain distilleries, because it's that economics of scale, although it is really coming down. The big grain distilleries in Scotland were first doing the kind of AD plants, the biomass burning, and becoming like 90% self-sufficient in energy. Now the smaller ones, and a bit like yourself, if you co-locate with other industries that are able to use the AD plants, then suddenly it does become more affordable for the smaller scale.
Sure. And how much does kind of B Corp impact? We're going through our B Corp certification currently. We're on track to do extremely well, which is obviously we're very proud of. I know the likes of Brookladdick have done very, very well, and the Scots are certainly taking an interest in B Corp and the effect it has, not only from a consumer perspective, but also doing what is ethically right from a production standpoint. Is B Corp something that's you're finding on the agenda for a lot of the Scottish distilleries? Are they looking into it? Is it becoming quite a prominent factor?
Yeah, I think in a short answer, yes. it just makes you think about all your activities, and therefore, you know, it gives you some good pushes and levers to do better, and that includes like good governance as a business, and also thinking about your local community. So I think all of them are probably having a look and an exploration whether some of the companies are so big. I don't know if a B Corp fits with that, or sometimes I saw, which I know is outside whiskey, Nestle do some brands, so some brands within bigger companies are looking at it. But and then there was another one which I can't remember the name of, where somebody else sort of said there's another another one that the UK government are kind of pushing a bit more. So I'm going to find out a bit more about that one and sort of feed that back into members. So it's, you know, it's not the only audit in town, but it's definitely really positive. And I think it's those distilleries that are really focusing on sustainability seem to be thinking it's a great wrap around for help celebrate what they're doing anyway. We're able to be novel and agile and nimble because we're small, we're independent, we're founders. So, you know, that decision making is quick and probably a little bit more affordable because we're like that small. But I think, you know, the big international companies are taking sustainability seriously, and so they're having to be innovative in what they can do. You know, that's their blueprint, that is their footprint. You can't you know, start creating Macallan in the central belt of Edinburgh because it's no longer Macallan. So they've got to work with their own blueprint, and so they're being really quite innovative. And there's, as I say, sustainability is a journey, and the whiskey community is amazing. And I think we're going to learn loads from them, and they're really happy to share. You know, like Chivas did a whole lot of testing on MVRs, and they made that open source, and they had 2 days or a week of people just coming around and like they explained what they did and what the research was, and they had over 100 visitors, I think.
Wow, that's impressive.
And so so they're kind of doing all that things, and we're also, you know, doing our bit. And when I worked in the Scotch whisky world, the sustainability strategy was the environment is non-competitive, and so that made that they would share all their findings across all distilleries, so everybody would move along the journey quicker. And I think that environment is non-competitive goes beyond the geographical boundaries as well. And you know, so if they're doing anything that we want to learn about, they will be very open and happy to share, and vice versa, because you know they don't hold all the answers. Nobody holds all the answers. So there'll be some things that we'll be leading on or focusing on, and we'll be, you know, and they'll be really pleased for us to share it with them. We're very near to setting that framework for English whisky, a geographical indication. You know, hopefully that will come out in 2025, and that's going to be a real next phase for English whisky in the category, to help continue raise the profile. So, you know, as more consumers around the world globally are seeing us as this well-respected, flavour-led, high-quality spirit, and also, you know, with my sustainability hat on and just that operational policy area, I love helping the members become this community, both with our associate members in the supply chain, with other trade associations, with the Scotch whisky community, and just, you know, making sure that I can share knowledge, learnings, insight, data. So we're all, you know, be able to make whisky better and greener, and, you know, just sort of learning from each other. So yeah, that's some of my highlights.
How many whisky distilleries are there in England now?
That's a question. So there was 55 on the Cooper King map, which was launched in April 24.
Yeah, okay. That's quite a lot more than there was the year before.
And somebody's mentioned 60. So yeah, we're, you know, always growing. I think they will plateau, and then we'll then see that phase of, you know, growth in the existing ones. And I also see that you've got some distilleries that are maybe pivoting. They're not necessarily stopping their gin or their vodka, but they're building another arm branch onto their product, and they're building or creating English whisky as well. So I think that's probably where we're seeing the expansion from, is those kind of more established English distilleries bringing out an English whisky.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you very much.
And can you make me look thinner?
Bigger.